Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a regularly scheduled meeting of the Penfield Zoning Board of Appeals. Tonight's meeting is going to take place in two parts. The first part will be our public hearings, and we will start those by reading the legal notice on the application and then asking the applicant to come up to the podium, give us name and address for the record, and then explain to the board why the relief requested should be granted. Once the applicant is done with the presentation, typically board members have questions for the applicant. And then we invite anyone in the audience that cares to come and speak about the application to also come up to the podium and give us his or her name and address and then speak about the application. Sometimes then the applicant comes back up and addresses concerns that were raised by some speakers, not all the time. But certainly people are free to do that. After the public hearings are adjourned, we'll take a brief recess, and then the board will reconvene in the back of the room to deliberate on tonight's applications, to tend to any tabled matters that we have, and then to finish any other business that the board may have. Members of the public are certainly welcome at both sessions, the public hearings and the deliberations, although the deliberations are timed reserved generally for conversations amongst board members with staff, and sometimes with council. But there's nothing carved in stone. Sometimes we do have questions of the applicant at that time as well. I always point out each and every meeting that the town has a practice and a policy, which I think is a good one, and I think my fellow board members agree, of notifying neighbors in the area of applications that the applications are going to be heard, and the town does that via postcard, by making applicants put up signs, by putting notices on the internet, and the old-fashioned way, posting written notices here at Town Hall. And the town does that so the neighbors are more fully informed of their right to come in and speak about an application. And I think generally it works pretty well around here. Having said that, I would ask everyone to rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Oh, by the way, I should also say that you can stay for both sessions, obviously. Fairly lengthy agenda tonight. I don't know what time we're going to get done, but if for whatever reason you want to leave, you can certainly call either Carol or Harold tomorrow and find out what action, if any, the board took on any particular item. Thank you. Harold?
Before we move on to our first application, the second application for the cell tower at Empire Boulevard, 1843, has asked to be adjourned. So if anybody's here for that application, it will be heard in April, and notifications will go out just as the notifications went out for this meeting night. Application number 1, Sandra Gianniny, 47 Cobbles Drive, Penfield, New York, 14526, requests an area variance from Article 3-3-35-D-6 and Article 3-3-35-D-8 of the Code to allow a structure housing livestock with less setback and less than 5 acres at 47 Cobbles Drive. The property is owned by Sandra Gianniny and is zone R-1-20. This is SBL number 124.17-1-52. This is application number 13Z-0007.
Go ahead.
Okay. My name is Sandy Gianniny, and I would like to thank the board for giving me this opportunity to speak, and I would like to thank my family, my friends, and neighbors for being here tonight to support me. In August of last year, I moved from Brighton to Penfield, along with my 6 chickens. While getting settled into my new home, I received notice that I was in violation of a zoning ordinance, and that is what brings me here today. Why chickens? Many chicken owners in neighboring communities such as Fairport, Pittsford, Brighton, Irondequoit, Greece, and the city of Rochester raise chickens for the same reason: eggs. Raising chickens satisfies an intrinsic and basic human right to feed oneself. In addition to gardening, it is an opportunity to grow one's own food. I have a unique reason for raising chickens. I have an autoimmune disorder, and have a very limited list of foods I am able to eat. I rely on eggs for at least one meal every day. I have to bake my own bread, rolls, cookies, and even pizza crusts, all recipes containing eggs. My medical condition is what led me to raising chickens. Wait a minute. Wegmans has organic eggs. Farmers at public markets have organic eggs. Why not just buy them there? Chicken feed. What chickens eat matters to me. The rules for organic chicken feed generally cover clean feed with no pesticides, added hormones, or antibiotics. A very good thing. However, soy is a common and accepted ingredient in chicken feed, and some of the properties of soy end up in the egg. When questioning farmers about their chicken feed, they are never positive what's in it, always assuring me that it's organic. I can't take the chance. Eating contaminated food causes me great digestive discomfort and can lead to more serious health problems if not monitored very closely. I keep my chickens behind my garage where they cannot be seen from the street. They reside in an attractive shed with a small fenced-in yard. My neighbor to the west cannot see them, and my neighbor to the east has written a letter in your packet in full support. I back up to woods. I keep all clean and well maintained. I do not believe my chickens have any impact on my neighborhood. In 6 months, I have had no complaints about the chickens. Given the chance, chickens can prove themselves to be sweet, quiet neighbors. I am not in a position to get rid of my chickens without a resource for clean eggs. Having gone through the great expense of moving, I do not have the money to move again. I would also hate to move, as I love my home, my neighborhood, my neighbors, and Penfield. I hope the board will not expect me to choose between my home and my health. I believe that due to my unique health problem, growing my own eggs is not an option, but a necessity. Not having clean eggs would cause me great hardship. I would greatly appreciate the compassion of the zoning board to let me keep my chickens so I can eat the cleanest food possible while I am living with serious medical issues. My doctor suggested at my last appointment that these are not ordinary chickens. They are service chickens. Thank you.
We have questions. How large was your property in Brighton?
0.8 acres.
0.8 acres? Mm-hmm. And you had the 6 chickens there?
Yes, I did.
Okay. How large is your property here?
1/3 of an acre.
0.4, actually.
Oh, whoops.
You realize that our code requires at least 5 acres?
I do now.
Okay. How many eggs a day does a chicken normally lay?
Well, each chicken lays an average of 5 a week, so they get a day off.
Would have approximately 30 eggs a week from your chickens. Do you have any other pets?
I have a small dog.
Okay. And are these chickens, where are these chickens kept?
They are kept in my backyard, behind my garage. I have a shed and a small fenced-in area, so they go in and out of the shed, and then they can be out in the fenced-in area, so they don't roam freely as far as they are fenced in.
How large is the shed?
It is 10 by 12.
And how often do you clean this shed?
Well, I go out every day and do just light housekeeping, and then every 5 or 6 days I go out and do a thorough cleaning.
Is it heated?
It is not heated.
What about odors?
I would not want to live with odors, and I make sure that I keep it very clean because I don't want them, and I don't have any problem with odors.
And how noisy, how much noise do the chickens generate?
Well, if They don't generate hardly any noise at all. They do make a little bit of noise when I'm out with them and feeding them. I would say that the blue jays, the crows, and the geese going overhead make a lot more noise. Hens are very quiet by nature. They are prey. We have a lot of hawks in Penfield, and they do circle around, and the hens are very, very quiet. They do not want to be noticed. Roosters are loud, but I do not have a rooster or want a rooster or need a rooster. So, but hens are very, very quiet. The gun club makes more noise than my chickens do. If any of you live near the gun club.
Tell us about life in a day of a chicken. How often are they out? When do you put them back in, or what happens?
They have a little door in the shed, and they come and go. So they get up in the morning, and I don't see them usually before 9 o'clock in the morning. And they come out, and I throw some chicken scratch out for them, and they just kind of hang out. They sit in the sun. It's been a long winter, so it's a different habit now. They're not so inclined to want to sit around in the snow, but they do come out quite a bit and scratch around in the snow looking for things. And they lay, and they may or may not lay an egg, and they just kind of do their little thing out there. There's not a lot to tell. They're just quiet. They hang out. In the good weather, they go under the bushes and just kind of lay in the shade, and it's not very dramatic.
What do you do with the manure?
The manure, I bag it, and it goes with waste management
Every week?
every week.
And you're not planning to use it for fertilizer?
I am not at my home. I have some people that have asked me for it, and I said, if you want to come get the bags, that's fine. It is very. I looked on eBay; it's going for $40 for a 10-pound bag right now. So,
Little business on the side there.
no, I don't have any. But I thought that was kind of funny. But no, I don't plan to use. I'm going to be gardening over at the Penfield Victory Garden. I think my first year on the property.
Do you think having chickens in a residential area like that will affect the property values?
I do not. I do not. And my chickens were at my previous residence when people came looking, and someone did buy my house when the chickens were there. So I don't think people. I think I called the town of Brighton, and they said they don't keep track of who's got flocks because they just don't. But she said she probably would guess there's a dozen flocks in Brighton, and she's been there 4 years. And I said, have there been any complaints? And she said one. And it was because some chickens got out and the people were worried because they were in the road. So it was more concern for the chickens than a complaint about the chickens. But that's been it in 4 years that she's worked there.
Do you realize we denied an application for chickens just down the road from you about a year ago?
I did find that out recently.
Okay. Now, with all the food intolerances you have, I think you probably could get chickens elsewhere. Could get organic eggs elsewhere.
I have not been able to find a source, which is what led me to this, because people aren't. A lot of the organic feeds have soy in them, and I was finding that I was struggling with digestive issues when I was eating other eggs. I'm having a very difficult time with my condition. It's not been easy. It's been very hard. It's been over a year, and it's not pleasant.
Just by chance in this morning's paper, there's an article about Breathe Yoga that is a little cafe that specializes in organic food. And they said they vowed to stay away from industrial products and to keep everything as organic and local as possible.
And again, organic feed does not guarantee that there won't be soy in the feed. And that's a big problem. And
do you know how far from each lot line you are? You need to have 100 feet from
I am not
every
100
line.
feet. That's why I'm here. I don't have 100 feet. I do not have 5 acres, but that's why I'm here to get a variance. They don't take up much space. I think wonder how old that law is, I mean, I'm not a farm, I'm not selling chickens, I'm not selling eggs, I'm not butchering chickens, I don't have 50 chickens. I would imagine that a farmer would want to put a big poultry house 100 feet from a house or lot lines, but 6 resident, backyard chickens, I think, is just a different thing.
Okay, for the record, I'll give you the setbacks. You are 13.5 feet from the west, means you would need a variance of 86.5 feet.
Okay.
From the east, you're 76.5 feet, so you would need a variance of 23.5 feet. From the front, you're 96 feet, so you would need a 4-foot variance. And from the rear, you're 75 feet, so you would need a 25-foot variance. You mentioned some other towns that allow chickens. I did call Pittsford today, and they do allow chickens, but there has to be 150 feet from all property lines, which means it would have to be a lot, quite a few acres to meet the 150 feet.
But they have been known to give variances, because I've talked to people that do not have that, and they have variances.
And in Webster, I also called Webster, they only allow chickens on farms, regular farms.
I did not put Webster on my list.
No, I didn't say you did. I'm just telling you about
Okay, yeah.
the towns that are very close to us here. And there they need 5 acres or more. Okay. Now, we did receive petitions from you for people who were in favor of this, and we also did receive an email from a neighbor. I don't know if she will be speaking this evening or not. Is Susan D'Angelo here? Will be speaking? Okay. Then I'll let you give your own. But these will go into the record. Let's see what else. And she is the neighbor who is right next door to the chicken coop, and where you would need the 86.5 feet variance, and she's the most directly affected. I think that's all the questions I have.
Mike, anything? Yeah. Let me ask you what may seem to be a silly question, but is, if you lived in an apartment, would you have these chickens?
No.
Okay, and why is that? I mean, again, I'm not trying to trick you or anything, I'm just,
I don't understand, I mean.
Well, what I'm getting
I wouldn't have
at.
use of property, I mean. when
No,
you're in an
I
apartment,
guess
you don't have use-
here's what I'm getting at, is that there are some pets that by their nature can be indoor pets. Cats. We have a cat, it's an indoor cat, if it gets outside, I'm chasing it down. But chickens, you wouldn't consider to be indoor pets.
No.
Okay. And obviously, you are using these chickens for the eggs that they produce, but you also could consider them to be pets. Okay, and that's fair enough. But as you know now, I know you learned about this after the fact, and that's unfortunate, but we do have a rule in Penfield that says 5 acres. And I think it's pretty clear that the reason for that rule, or one of the reasons for that rule, I wasn't around when they made it the law, but was to keep livestock, including chickens, in areas that were not considered as densely populated with homes, more rural, in other words. And why I'm raising this point is because the variance that you're requesting in that regard, setbacks issues, and as you said, other towns have it, and you can grant variances for setbacks under appropriate circumstances. But the one for the acreage is a dramatic and very significant variance request. And as you know, by now, probably, we have the balancing test that we as a board have to go through these factors to determine whether or not a variance in any particular case is appropriate. And that's the one that I personally am struggling with the most. Because I think that the law is there for a reason, and people may disagree with that, by the way. And my guess is a lot of people in this room do disagree with that, and that's okay. but nonetheless, it is the state of the law. And this board doesn't have the authority to change the law. We can grant variances from the law.
Right, and that's-
under appropriate circumstances.
Exactly, and that's why I'm here.
Yeah, but hearing you and reading your materials and watching your YouTube, which I did last night, and they were very nice, by the way, it seems to me that a large part of your argument is because of your personal health and your dietary needs.
Yeah.
And that's understandable and fair, and so it's, again, it seems to me that you'd be wanting the chickens no matter how big your lot was or how small it was. So that leads me to the question of, if that is your reason, and it's an appropriate reason, but another one of the factors that we have to consider is if there's any other feasible method for you to achieve the result you're hoping to get. And if the result you're hoping to get is a healthy diet, then I have to ask you to get into that and very simply ask you, what can you eat besides these eggs? Without,
Did you see my list?
I did see the
It's a
list.
difficult list.
Yes, yes. And so, but I would like you to comment a little bit about that and ask you if there are any other people from whom you can obtain eggs.
I haven't found anyone, and that's why I started eggs. I did keep in mind, when I was looking for places, I did not look to live in an apartment or a condominium.
Right,
I did pick that home, and it's got so much acreage and acreage behind it that
Yeah.
there's no one living behind me. So I don't own the property, but visually there's a lot of space behind me. If you are familiar with where I live, there's a lot of space back there. And I thought that was a good thing, that someone wouldn't be backing up to me. And you know, you keep saying livestock, and livestock is an agricultural term. It is an agricultural term used to define animals that are used on farms to make money. And often, I would say a farmer probably wouldn't have 6 chickens. A farmer would have 50 chickens. Would you agree with that?
absolutely.
So I definitely think that livestock is a term used in that sense. And so I think to force the livestock term on 6 chickens just doesn't match at all. And we need another language at some point.
And I'm sorry.
You know, so just all these lot lines and all these things are really a farm application. And I'm not a farm. I'm not selling anything. I'm not butchering anything. I'm not breeding anything. They take up very little space. If we were here to talk about dogs leave a lot more waste around our neighborhoods. Dogs are much more aggressive. And they are, thank you, that was my third point. Dogs are a lot louder. And I love my dog, and my neighbors, many of them have dogs. And I beg to wonder if somebody was wanting to get a variance for their dog, would they get it? You know, I have to clean up after my chickens. I'm not sure people are all that great. I've been to the park at cleaning up after their dogs. And certainly they fail on every account. And
Right.
The chickens, there's a small number. And so to constantly say livestock, I think, is unfair. They just don't take up much space at all. And they're quiet, and I keep them clean and well-maintained.
And I don't disagree. Again, I saw the YouTube, and it's evident. I agree with you. However, as I was saying earlier, I have to keep saying livestock because that is what the statute says. And
And maybe do we have variances for cases when things just don't fit?
absolutely, absolutely. And that's
I
why
don't-
the law requires us to go through this balancing test
Right.
of 5 factors. And speaking of that, there is another factor that I think Carol asked the question, but I'd like you to expand on that a little bit too. And frankly, anyone that comes up, I'd like to address this point too. Would the presence of 6 chickens change the character or the nature of the neighborhood at all? And I know your answer is going to be no, but I'd
Well,
like you to say why.
I will say this, I talked to the people on both sides of me when I was moving in with them, and I talked to Chris lived next door, he was home, and I talked to him, and then Dave and Colleen are the ones that can see them. The way the shed is, and I put up stockade fencing, the person that's closest to them can't ever see them. And the person who would be able to see them, but they're farther away, they love the chickens. So anyway, I purposely did not tell people I had chickens, and when I was going to do the petition, I sent a letter out to everyone because I didn't want to have to tell my story so many times, and said I'll be around on Saturday. And my first question to most everybody was, did you know I had chickens? And everyone said no. They had no idea that I had even had them. So I don't think it's going to change the nature of the neighborhood. They're good neighbors. They're quiet neighbors. And the way I have it situated, you can't see them. And the one couple who can see them, and they have to go to their... Yeah, I know. This is a definition of livestock: the horses, cattle, sheep, and other useful animals kept or raised on a farm or ranch.
I looked at about 10 definitions last night.
Yeah.
If you Googled it, yeah, but thank you, that certainly is helpful. The fact that it's not clear is an indication.
Yeah, it's a quiet.
And by the way, we don't have a definition in our code.
While we're talking about definitions, I looked up, besides livestock, I looked up chicken, which is a barnyard fowl.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, I
you were
just
saying.
say, I had a very positive experience going around the neighborhood, and it took many Saturdays because catching people home and people travel and all that kind of thing. And everyone was very positive. You've got a lot of signatures there. And but I did ask people, and they said they did not know until they saw my letter. They were not aware, and people right across the street did not know.
Okay, let me ask you this. Could you ever envision somebody that has pet chickens, letting them run around the front yard, let's say?
I think that would be inappropriate. And
Why is that?
Well, I think that I don't think that would be, and I gave you a list of what rules that some of the other towns are using. I think chickens should be penned up because they're a danger to being hurt by dogs that are on electric fences. They're in danger of being attacked by, we've got all kinds of stuff coming in our backyards. We've got coyotes and foxes and turkeys, deer. One morning I came out and there were 5 turkeys standing at the fence and my 6 chickens, and they were just staring at each other like, oh my God, what are you? I mean, it's really cute. And the deer, I've caught them over there just kind of wondering what the small turkeys were doing. I don't know what they're thinking, but it's a very, very quiet dead end, very much in the woods, and I just don't think it's going to change the nature of the neighborhood. And I did not get any feedback in.
Okay. So let's go back to the other one about other feasible methods of achieving it. And yes, I have seen the list of the foods that you can eat and some that you can't. But if this application gets denied, I'll ask you, what are you going to do?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. It's very upsetting to think about because this is a hard thing to live with.
Mm-hmm.
My life is hard. I can't go out to a restaurant. I can't go pop somewhere and get something to eat. I always have to be carrying food with me. I always have to be cooking food. I'm baking bread certain nights. I feel like my grandmother, Monday's bread baking day. And I mean, it's really changed my life. I mean, you don't realize how much convenient food you use till you can't use it. Traveling is a nightmare. I'm flying to visit my daughter in Austin next week for Easter, and she's got a list of food to have on hand, and getting through the airport is very difficult. I won't eat for 7 hours because there's just nothing in the airport I can eat.
All right. Any other questions from the board? Anyone in the audience? Well, that's why we got to, You raised your hand first. Come on up and give us
I
your,
grew up in Penfield, and we had.
Please come
you
up.
got to come up here.
Come on up.
I grew up in Elson Park Heights.
If you can wait till you get up to the microphone.
Give us your name
yeah.
and address, because everything is being recorded.
I'm Deborah Miller. Do you want my address right now?
Yes, please.
37 Woodbury Place. And I grew up in Penfield in Ellison Park Heights on Collinsworth Drive, and we had a chicken coop. So it was a very residential area. We had an acre and a half, but there was a chicken coop there. I mean, I realize I'm older, but.
I wasn't going to ask you when you,
But
when
very
you-
residential. Thank you.
okay.
You got points, but,
Well,
I mean,
I actually don't know when this law passed, to be honest with you.
see, that's what I was wondering.
And frankly, another thing is enforcement. How many years ago, where I lived, off of Creek Street, near Creek and Plank, were there nothing but apple orchards there?
Oh,
Not
absolutely.
many years ago. Okay. Any questions for this
It was
witness?
just very residential. I mean, Collingsworth Drive, Ellison Park Heights, I mean, those
Sure.
houses are close together.
And I guess I shouldn't assume, no issues with the chickens?
No.
Okay.
And you said you had an acre and a half?
We did, it was a gully, because it, went down to Ellison Park, but it was right, it was right there. But we couldn't use it, because it was all steep.
You can't use, hers
I mean, it was
backs right
actually
off,
very
too.
similar to her backyard.
Yeah,
Because it was all woods, it was beautiful, very private. It didn't bother the neighbors or anything. I mean, we were close to our neighbors. Our neighbors are boom, boom, boom. Those houses were built whenever, 20s or 30s.
Okay.
I'm just mentioning it. I never even thought about it till tonight. And then I thought, what we have.
Thank you for
Is
coming.
Ellison Hills Penfield or is that
No,
Brighton?
Ellison Park Heights. That's
Oh,
Penfield.
Penfield, okay.
But actually, I think the parts of the street is Brighton.
Brighton, yeah, I
Yeah.
think so.
RTX is all into Penfield.
Okay.
Not all of them, but go ahead, ma'am. Don't worry, we're going to be here as long as it takes.
Monica Gorlick, 54 South Village Trail. I'm not your neighbor, but I'm going to tell you, no, never did, but I'm going to tell you something. 1.5 acres is less than 5 acres. That's number one, okay? Number two, you've got the same size property as we do, and that's a lot in a backyard. Trust me on this, and I got a Forever Wild behind me. I'm in favor of you getting this only because, one, health issues, okay? Two, she cleans up after them, because that was one of the things that I wrote in my notes about this, is, how do you keep the property? She has them housed. They don't make noise. I've seen people with chickens in the front of a house, and they generally stay near the property. That's number one. Laws can be amended, okay? I know because I worked in the legal field for many, many years. You do have a very good support group there. And I didn't know how I was going to feel about it, but listening to you, I do hope that you are in favor of her, because health issues are a bitch to be living with, okay? And I'm fortunate to be healthy. I can eat anything. You talked about organic foods. And now I'm into the health bit, okay? I make my own breads because I want him healthy. I make my own ice cream. But I can eat anything. That's why I'm built the way I'm built, okay? But you cannot prove what feed is being given to the animals. They say it's organic. Every one of my nutrition health letters, I have a library at home, okay? And I'm older than some of these people here. I just eat well, okay? They've just found that they cannot prove anything to be 100% organic. And just because it says organic doesn't make it organic, all right? So,
Soy can be organic.
right, and she can't eat soy. So she's got to be very careful. And I don't know what you have. I just wish you well. But I've, on occasion, have been uncomfortable with certain foods that I've eaten. And I'm sure it's worse for you, because I have no allergies or anything. So I do hope that you are in favor of her, because I'm sure she picks up more than some of the people in my neighborhood with their dog crap. He brings it home with them.
Sir? No, 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 no.
Good evening. My name's Gary Putup. I live at 391 Melwood Drive in Greece, New York. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I spoke to the clerk earlier. I just came here to observe primarily, and I appreciate the opportunity to be able to address you. I've been in Penfield before. I've been in a town court, and I haven't had a chance to be in this building. And I just have to comment, this is a beautiful building. What took me to the Penfield court is I spent 30 years in the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. And after I retired from the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, I worked as an advocate, a professional advocate for a while. I'm retired now. Sandy came to me about a week ago and said, we're not good friends. We know each other. We know each other through mutual friends. But she knew that I had some experience as an advocate, and she knew I had some experience with the law. And she said, well, just look at this case. So I agreed to do that, and I did some research. And what I came up with is, like, she's in violation of the law. Clearly, she's in violation of the law. She has these chickens. I read your ordinances, and she's not supposed to have them. And you're elected officials. And I explained this to Sandy. We met last night. You're elected officials. You're not elected officials?
We're
Well,
appointed.
you're public servants. And
That we are.
you're sworn to uphold the law. And I realize that you cannot just turn around and say, fine, Sandy, you can have chickens. And as the clerk explained, you've already denied some of these variances. So how could you ever explain to anybody else, well, you can have these? And nobody's here to amend the law or change the law. That's not going to happen. That's not you don't have the authority to do that. Only the elected representatives on the town board have the authority to do that. So we're not asking, as I look at this just as a matter of interest, see, some people like toy trains. I like government. I like this kind of stuff. All right, and that's why I came here tonight. And again, and I beg your indulgence because I wasn't really prepared to speak, but I've been thinking about this, Sandy's case that you brought this to my attention just within the last week, and I looked over, these ordinances. And having been in the sheriff's department, I understand the law is the law and the law has to be upheld. But we also understand this, the law has a heart. And where the law has a heart in the town of Penfield is in you being able to grant a variance. But I also understand that you have a responsibility. And so I looked up, I just doing the research, because again, this is my thing, circumstances for granting variances. And I don't, maybe just for other people's sake, that there's 4 circumstances that all need to be met to grant a variance. And if I may, I'm just going to go off on a side a little bit. I think we have to be careful using the word pet here. Sandy owned a dog, and many people owned a dog just to have a pet. But stop me when I'm wrong. Sandy did not own chickens before she had this health problem. Okay? So and I'll be careful. And we use the word pets, just like a 4-H a participant calls their cow a pet that eventually ends up at McDonald's. All right? And I think we should make sure, because as I get into the variances, what your responsibilities are and what her situation is to understand these are not pets. She didn't own these before she got sick. Mr. DeLaus, you asked, well, would she move into an apartment? Well, and forgive me, but it's kind of an odd question to ask somebody that's ill.
I said it
would I
before
ask somebody in a wheelchair, well, geez, would you have moved into an apartment on the 3rd floor? What would happen? All right, and in today's world, we've learned that we need to be sensitive to people's needs. Ms. Mulcahy, you mentioned about, can she go to another store? I would ask this, would you ask somebody with a wheelchair, well, can't you just get somebody to help you up the stairs? Do we really need to build a ramp? Can't you just go to another restaurant? Can't you just go to a different store? In all due respect, is that the same question you would ask your mother if she was ill? But I want to get back to the point, and it's like 11-4 circumstances of granting variances. And I sat down with Sandy last night, and I told her, I said, you know what, quite frankly, I'm not sure. I mean, you're in violation of the law, and these people have a responsibility to uphold the law, and they can only grant these variances under these conditions. But the reason I came tonight is I believe Sandy meets each and every one of these where you can grant the variance. And I understand the problem you have with, well, we denied other people, and the problem that you will have in the future when somebody else comes and does have pet chickens and wants just to have chickens because Sandy has chickens. So what position does that put you in? So I just looked at them very quickly. And I start with B, and I'll work my way up, if you don't mind. It's just a reminder. It says the hardship is unique and does not apply to a substantial portion of the district or the neighborhood. I'm going to suggest that Sandy meets that condition. Sandy is a little, and as I think we could all understand, when we have a medical condition, it's not obvious and is life-threatening, it's not exactly like we go around telling people. When I talked to Sandy last night, she's willing to share that information with you. And I think as anybody has been ill or sick, whether it's even something as common as cancer, it's an uncomfortable thing to talk about. But she is at this point willing to share that information with you, if you decide that you want to see it, to speak to her doctor and bring notarized a letter confirming what she has said. Right? This is a unique hardship. All right, and I'm going to suggest that if we look, I don't think you're going to find a whole lot of people in Penfield that have a hardship that is this unique and in a particular neighborhood. So what this brings up is if you are asked in the future if you grant this variance, well, if you can show us, if you can have your doctor come to us and tell us that you have some autoimmune disease, that you have to be on this special diet and live the way this woman does, we'll consider your variance too, but we're not allowing pets. Look, and you know what, we fully understand that a town gets to decide who gets what kind of pets. Yeah, does somebody decide to have the Shetland pony? Somebody wants to have a baby giraffe. That's the right of the people in this town to decide. But you also have that heart to make this. So I look at this first subsection B and say, this is, in fact, she meets this standard. This is a unique hardship that a substantial portion of people don't have. I think that stands on its face. C, the variance will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood. Now, I've seen pictures of Sandy's house. I haven't been there, I'll admit that. Her neighbors are here. And as Sandy has testified, people didn't even know she had chickens. She has a shed. I have seen pictures of this shed. It's a common shed that people use. I have a shed like that at my house that I keep my lawnmower in. I would be willing to bet, and I think Sandy would invite each of you, if you ever wanted to go there, you would see no difference between this shed and again, a common shed for a lawnmower, aside from the fact that they're fenced, which I hope answers Mr. Lush, your question too, is like, sure you don't want chickens running around the front yard. I would be upset too. And if you grant this variance, I can't speak for Sandy, but you can ask her yourself, will she agree to keep those chickens in that pen? Will she agree that if there's any neighbors that complain about the odor? And as I looked at the section, one of the things in the section, it says poultry. And I don't want to get, I think it's a mistake to get caught up on livestock and poultry and chickens. Look at their chickens, they're poultry, they're in violation of your section. You say no poultry. I agree to that. Right? But I think if you take a look and the evidence and the neighbors here can speak to this, and they're the ones that live with this, that this variance has not, that what she has done, because she is in violation, but it is in the 9 months that she's had these chickens here, it has not altered the character of the neighborhood. People don't even know it's there. If I may, I'll move on to D. The alleged hardship is not self-created. I think that speaks for itself. I don't think anybody here would wish a disease on themselves, much less anyone else. I don't think this is a situation, again, that this woman has brought on herself. You hear how she lives. You hear what she has to do. I'm sure she would trade places with many of us here. I don't think anybody would want to be in this position, and I don't think there's any need to go on for that any further. So the real question I had when I talked to Sandy is, what about A? Under the applicable zoning regulations, the applicant is deprived of all economic use or benefit from the property.
Excuse me, the criteria you're using is not for an area variance. It's for a use variance. Those aren't the criteria we use for area variances.
Some of them overlap.
Some
you've
do
hit on some.
overlap.
All right.
But that last one you mentioned is for a use variance, which is a different
There's
standard.
a
But-
hardship for that matter.
Yeah, the hardship is a use variance, not an area variance.
Okay.
But the
Does it-
arguments you
does-
were making
for
to
her
a-
case.
to a large point are germane.
All right, and I'm almost done, and I would
Take
appreciate
your
it
time. You
if-
take
if-
your time.
If you think I'm doing okay, tell me which ones I don't miss, and I'll see if I'd be happy to answer those questions, all right? Because like I say, well, one of the advantages I have over Sandy is I'm not emotionally involved with these. They're not my chickens, all right? I just happen to think that
Yeah.
this is a woman that has a good case. So,
I just want to say one thing. When you said about the pet chickens, Sandy says, I consider my pet chickens, and she calls them her pets.
I realize that. And when she first gave her statement, she didn't refer to them. And in fact, I believe she, like her doctor said, I would liken them more to like a service animal under the circumstances. I realize that it doesn't meet that legal definition, but this is something that somebody lives with. I mean, and again, ma'am, I think I bring up is she had a dog, but she didn't get the chickens until this happened to her. All right, I think
She
if it
does
had been
have
the
a
other
dog.
way around, and she had these as pet chickens, it's the night's over. All right, but that wasn't really the sequence of events. And I think I certainly wouldn't say like anybody's misusing that term, but I'm just trying to clarify that we're using them, and it would be like the same again. I think like a kid that lives on a farm thinks of their animals as pets.
They're more than pets to her. I think we get that, so you can,
Oh,
you can go on.
I'm sorry. Yeah,
That's okay.
I didn't want to
just-
beat. I guess I beat that one to death. But anyway, so.
little bit.
I guess you did.
The applicants deprived the economic problem. Sandy tells me this story. She moved out here for a reason. And she's had health concerns. She has, children, but she has responsibilities like we all do, economic responsibilities. And we all know that we haven't lived in the best of times in the last 8-10 years. Moving is a big expense. She chose to live out in Penfield because she really liked it out here. Penfield has a great reputation. Her property backs up to some forever wild. She wanted to live here. The little bit I know Sandy, but she had mentioned when she moved here, I knew she moved here, and she told me what great neighbors she had and how much she likes it here. And I think we all know how much it costs to move. And if she doesn't get this variance, this is really a choice for her between her health and her home. She considers Penfield to be her home now. And you people are her neighbors. If she can't have this isn't like really a choice. You ask what she would do. I mean, in the middle of January, you just can't pack up your car because I'm hungry and I'm going to go to some organic restaurant and eat. I mean, we just can't live that way. So I'm suggesting that she even meets this standard. And ma'am, I do understand that maybe I'm looking at the wrong ones. But I think you could understand that by not granting this variance for her, it would create an economic hardship, and she would be deprived of the use of this property. She may be forced to move, and it's not something she wants to do. Now, if I could, are there other circumstances that I've missed that would allow you to grant this variance?
Not sure I understand the question.
Well, here,
that you're
I had
asking.
these 4 conditions here. And what I think I was trying to point out, too, is that I understand your position. I mean, I've been in the same position. How do you enforce this law? But you're given the authority, you're granted the authority through the town to say, you know what? This person has met these. And not everybody's coming here that has chickens is going to be able to do this. I would not stand up here. If Sandy had told me I pet chickens and that the town has done this, and I read her case and I looked this over, and I said, well, you know what? They have an ordinance. This town has chosen not to have chickens. You got to get rid of your pet chickens. That's not the case here. So what I'm wondering is the question is before I leave the podium, because I know there's other cases here tonight too. Is there a question of like why you couldn't do this that I might be able to answer? For instance, if you had another citizen come to you and say, why don't I get a variance? I want to be able to sit back and say, you know what? You could sit back here and say, well, the reason we gave this woman this variance, Sandy, is because she met all these conditions. And I'll tell you what, if the citizen came up to me and asked me that, I says, you want to trade places with her? Do you want to be in that position? Knock yourself out. So I don't think you're in a position where you have to worry about, and I know the clerk was kind enough, Mr. Morehouse, that there have been variances denied, and probably rightfully so. But this case is special. This case is unique. This is a hardship that wasn't created by this woman.
Well, let me raise a point on that. Certainly her physical condition she didn't create. No one disputes that. But the hardship that is referred to in the law is actually the hardship with, in this case, with the acreage. So, although she did it unknowingly, I'll grant you that, but by buying a house that was less than 5 acres, one could argue that the hardship is self-created. In other words, if you bought a farm that had 6 acres and met the setbacks, we wouldn't be here tonight.
I understand, yeah, you know what, I understand your reading of that.
Okay, go ahead.
But I think we, you know, yeah, that certainly, you know what, Mr. DeLusk, I agree with your interpretation of that.
But I also
As I
understand what
read
you're
this
saying
as a
about her
citizen
unique
reading your
situation.
hardship, this is not something that she brought upon herself and the other.
Certainly not her
Yeah.
dietary restrictions. No one is saying that
Yeah.
at all, or
I
ever
think,
would.
I guess what I'm trying to, and the reason I took interest in this is because I think this is the kind of thing where government can sit back and say yes. And I understand your positions, where you sit back with this responsibility, and how do you answer to anybody else that then says, why not me? And I think these are the answers. This is why not me. And you know what? And I'm going to say this, because I live in a different town where things are different, all right? But what does that also say about the town of Penfield? All right? I understand why you have this law, and it's a good law, and that's not the argument. But it also shows that this town is a place that people can live, that people can sit back and say, you know what, we understand when people have special problems. You know, this is a welcoming place. Do we welcome chickens? No. Do we welcome people that aren't all like us and that might have some special need? Yes, that we do. That this town is not heartless, that this town understands that certain citizens have special needs that we might not all recognize. I think that would say something special about Penfield myself.
I think the bottom line here is not the chickens, it is for this application. The bottom line is she needs a certain kind of egg. That's the bottom line. She needs organic eggs.
And this is really,
Is that what you need?
I need clean eggs. I don't need organic eggs, I need clean eggs.
you know, Ms. Mulcahy,
Well, let's have one person speak at a time, and
Yeah.
then it's going to
Ms.
either be
Mulcahy, and I
a
would
board
suggest-
member or the person at the podium.
I'm sorry.
That's-
Ms.
you don't
Mulcahy,
need to
I would
apologize.
suggest this, and I think we've heard this in the news and that. One of the biggest problems with food and dietary, and it's, you know, as obesity is, you know, become a national issue, is there is no definition of what's natural and what's
Right.
organic. And I think
Right.
we all recognize, even Wegmans will sit back and, well, you know, what's organic at Wegmans might not be organic at Lori's. What's natural? Well, you know what? In some places you put certain chemicals in a vat and it's natural. So, you know, I understand your point, but I think until such time as that there was some kind of standard, like if Sandy could go to a store and know, like, well, this meets this standard, I know that, but that doesn't exist at this time. Anything else? I appreciate your time. I sincerely appreciate you allowing me to come up here and speak. You know, and it's just because I really think that this is a good case. Thank you.
Thank you. Sure.
I think that I was using the word pet chickens consistently because I wanted to separate my chickens out from livestock. I don't sell the eggs, I don't butcher the chickens and sell the meat, I don't breed chickens. That is what I consider livestock, and so to refer them to livestock, I wanted to give, for lack of another word, I used the word pets, but it just was because I didn't.
Again, I wasn't
Yeah.
trying to trick you or anything like that. I
Yeah.
took it
No, I
as
just,
you
you know.
consider them to be pets, but also you needed their eggs.
Yeah.
That wasn't an issue in my mind.
And just to be clear, soy can be organic, and soy can be in chicken feed, and that is the thing that will hurt me the most. And that's why I have to be so careful. And I have asked many farmers down at the Rochester Public Market. I went and visited the one here in Penfield. It's called East Side. And they go, oh, yeah, we have organic chicken feed. I said, yeah, but do you have the ingredient? Do you know what's in it? No, but it's organic. I can't take that risk. Soy is organic. It can be organic.
Have to be something you could eat directly?
No, I just feed them, I buy special feed that is just pure corn. And corn does not, its properties don't go into the egg. It gets, I don't know how to explain it. A lot of the things I'm allergic to don't go into the eggs. Soy is the one, and soy is, it's in our chocolate bars, ladies. It's really a hardship. My son brought me a Lucky chocolate bar tonight, and I said, "I'm sorry, honey, I can't eat it." And he looked at the label, and it had soy lecithin in it. And he bought me a nice dark chocolate Godiva bar, too, and I can't eat it. And so I just want you to know that they can be organic, but they still cannot be clean for me, okay?
Let me ask you, since you came up here again, a couple of questions that have arisen in my mind. First, I think it might have been you that mentioned it, but I remember from some of the other applications we've had that people expressed concern about predators.
Mm-hmm.
So if we were to ask you, would allowing you to have these chickens result in an increase in the presence of potentially dangerous predators in the area, what would your answer to that be?
I don't know. We would have to start counting predators and keeping statistics. I don't know what they were before, but I will tell you this. When I was looking at my house, the realtor very proudly said, "Oh, you're going to love living here. There's turkeys, there's deer, there's a fox that comes through every day, and he's just beautiful." And she saw that as a selling point to the property. I do see the fox come through sometimes when I'm eating my breakfast, and he comes up over the edge of the big cliff there, and he kind of looks over wistfully, like, because we trenched the fence in. It's a high quality fence, and we trenched it in. We put it in very well, and obviously he's probably tried but not interested, because he doesn't even go over there. I don't know how you would prove that. I haven't.
Well,
I've seen my one fox.
Perhaps is part of the problem. We had a neighbor who lost a dog to a coyote, and it was an awful experience for them. And I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying.
They're here already.
Well, but my question was, would the presence of chickens increase the likelihood or the possibility? And you candidly answered you didn't know, which I appreciate your candor.
I don't know how they are locked up in the shed gets closed up at night. Coyotes, I think, are out at night. I don't
Okay.
know how I would.
All right, that's fair enough. That's fair enough.
Oh, you have to come up here.
Well, you can hold on a second. We have other people that.
I was the person you were talking about. Who
You got to
had-
give us your name and address there, son.
Jack Rebirth, 13 5 High Mile Drive. I was a person who got the chicken coop or the chickens taken away. I do say that she should be able to have her chickens so she can meet her health requirements. Thank you.
Okay. When you raise your hand high enough and I see it and I say, "Come on up," that's when you come up.
Come on down, right down.
Yeah.
I didn't know whether we had to wait to a certain time.
Oh, when I say, "Come on up."
Good evening. I'm Connie Perry, and I live at 31 Cobbles Drive, and I live 2 doors away from Sandy. And when she moved in, we welcomed her as our neighbor, and it was a long time before we realized that she had chickens. And just apart from anything else that you've been talking about tonight, health issues, etc., I just personally think it's a really neat idea. That was my own personal opinion before I even realized that there were other health issues, which it appears to me that are the underlying reasons that you as a committee who representing people from Penfield should really take a serious look at this. One of the things I wanted to make several points. One of the points that I wanted to make is I think your responsibility as representing Penfield, residents, when you make decisions, I don't think that your decisions should be based on what you've done for other people. And the reason I'm saying that is because I worked in special ed for 20-some years, and every time that we had a special ed student that we had to consider their needs, we had to look at that student as a student and say, what does this child need? What does this person need? And every single person, we could not say, we've got this law, and one law applies to everybody. Because what applies to one person is not the same that can apply for everybody. And so that's why I think that when you make your decision, you have to look at what Sandy's needs are, and you have to say, you know, we have the power within us to do this variance. This is our responsibility to look at the requests from the citizens and say, what is the best thing for us to do here? The other point that I would like to make is that it does not change the character of the neighborhood at all. We live 2 doors up from Sandy. The backyards are flat. They go to the a ravine that feeds down to Panorama Trail, and we have all kinds of wild animals, everything that's been mentioned tonight, and we never have had any problems with wild animals. We see everything that everybody else in Penfield sees. So I think that Sandy's answer that she couldn't tell you if chickens are going to pull the coyotes in, I think the coyotes have been roaming through the neighborhoods. I've heard that they've been here before. So those are my points. I think, number one, you have to look at each case independently, and please do not make a blanket statement that, well, we did this before, so we cannot change. I admire the young man who came up and realized that everybody has individual needs, and I think that's the important thing for you to look at. And also, I'm totally in favor of her having those chickens. I think Sandy is going to do the very best at keeping them so nobody even knows that they're there. And I live 2 doors, and I was thinking of even going out in the backyard and trying to see, can I see where those chickens are? I mean, I haven't even ever heard them. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lisa Stifler. I live at 32 Cobbles, and I promise to be very brief. I have visited the chickens a couple weeks ago during a random Saturday on taking my dog for a walk. I just wanted to say that it was probably the cleanest chicken coop I've ever seen. Not that I've seen a lot, but I mean, it was a pop-in. She didn't expect anybody to come over and look at the chickens at that point, and it was very clean. They were very quiet. One was actually laying an egg at the time, and they do make a little noise when they lay an egg, but outside of the shed, you couldn't hear it. My daughter was so thrilled that she was able to keep the egg, and we made brownies with it. So that was very exciting for her. And it's a good learning opportunity for the children on the street to see things like that too. So I do not think that it's going to change the nature of our neighborhood at all. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Nancy Marr. I live at 199 Gebhardt, and 2 years to the day is when I had my turn feathering in front of this, asking for my chickens. The difference is I had really crappy neighbors behind me, and you have really nice neighbors. So there's a big difference. I'm still harassed by those neighbors, I'd like to point out, a lot. And I am not in any violence here whatsoever. But, hey, they're old. They'll be gone soon. Sorry. No, it's called a $6,000 fence. That's going to take care of it. Anyways, as you all know, I've had a lot of experience. I grew up on a farm. I did have chickens. And the only way that people knew I had chickens is someone trespassed on my property and took a look at them.
and said, "Oh, hi, how are you?" And went away with eggs and thought it was thrilling. But needless to say, we're here. They've moved, so they're going. Chickens do not cause any issues. And it's funny, you know, you're talking about organic stuff. My daughter also has an issue. She hasn't had an egg since my chickens left. I can control what my chickens eat. I can't control what people put in the chicken's feed. My daughter cannot have eggs. Unlike her, my daughter has more alternatives than she does. She loves eggs. Occasionally we have it, and I pay for it for days afterwards. So she still cannot have eggs. The people who have my chickens, they're on a different feed, so I no longer receive them. So we're still having that same issue, where my daughter cannot have eggs, and it does make a huge difference in our family. We do a lot of our own cooking and stuff. But you know what? I'll work around it, searching out a 40-acre property, not in Penfield, tax dollars elsewhere. But chickens create manure. Dogs, cats create waste that is detrimental. Approximately 20% of waste that's in the water system in Penfield currently is dog doo-doo. Just to let you know, chicken doo-doo doesn't cause a lot of issues. I can go and buy it at Harris Seed right now, a bag of chicken manure that is equivalent to an entire year's worth of chicken manure that I can use to fertilize my property. Okay, so there's no issues here on waste. They're not noisy. And you know, one of the concerns here for your question is, will the coyotes come in? First of all, there's a breeding pair of foxes on the other side of the town, and for that little yipping and yapping, it's not the coyotes, it's the foxes. They're celebrating it is now breeding time. Two, there is a coyote. It's been there for years. It's actually tagged. It's a young male. It travels up the whole system and adds to the population with all the young ladies that stick around. Three, there are 5 turkeys that come and visit every day. Don't you think they'll bring in the coyotes? Those 5 turkeys were this big last year. Now they're big. Obviously, the coyotes aren't too much of a threat or too big because they're still alive. And for pets and stuff, I lived in an apartment. I had a duck, just to let you know. In an apartment complex. You clean it. It can be litter box trained. And chickens can be in there as well. In the city of New York, chickens are pets in the apartment buildings, laying eggs. I had parrots, still bird. Same doo-doo, same food, corn, whatever. They create the same thing. So I actually am a full support, and you'll see me again asking for a variance. Actually, I think the main board's going to see me pretty quickly. Because I think the law is wrong. I mean, the community is pushing sustainability. One of the biggest things right now is we're watching last year when half our apple crop was wiped out because of the change in the environment. The only thing that's going to feed us, this country, are the small farms and the little backyard farms, not these big industrial farms, because that's what's pretty much destroyed our food system. And why my daughter has allergies, why people get sick, why you guys, if you eat all your cereal and stuff, you're going to have genetically altered food, like putting frog genes into tomatoes so that they can be transported from California to be eaten here. You all eat them right now because that's what you're eating currently in your salads at any of the smaller restaurants because they buy it from California. Frog genes. Frog legs are pretty good. Not so keen about the gene in the tomato, though. And these are some things that are happening. This is why her systems happen. I mean, there's a lot of us that are going to fall into these problems. Chickens are not the issue, okay? A dog can be a dirty dog or a clean dog. Nothing to do with the dog. It's the owner, okay? My chickens, spotless. I have to eat those eggs. I'm sorry. I'm not going to eat dirty eggs. I got to clean them. She has to eat them. I'm going to keep them clean. My chickens are right next to my kitchen windows. Mainly because I watched them because I wasn't sure. I'm lucky enough I have dogs, so any of the other coyotes and foxes, they don't go near it, and I had it covered anyways. My chickens are gone. They're living at a 50-acre farm right now. They've also have 25 or 30 chickens. I had 6. Okay, so there's a big difference here, and I think the law, even though you think it's a good law, I think it stinks. And I think it's in this day and age where you can go into cities, New York City, and have chickens. You can go into the city of Rochester. The towns that don't have this or have this law, it's because they're a little kind of snotty. Sorry, I'm here for the school system. Okay, fabulous school system, outstanding. I lived in the city. I didn't receive any issues in prejudice, nastiness until I moved into Penfield. And it wasn't just the chickens, there's all kinds of other things. You got to kind of take a look at the whole big picture. You know, this is a progressive town, good planning. You have a superhighway running through the center of your town. It's not very good planning. Chickens are not a detriment to the neighborhood. I had the whole neighbors come to see my chickens all the time. They're still, where are your chickens? I'll ask them. They still ask for it. Kids want to come over and play. If anything, it brings the neighborhood together. And the advantage Sandy has is she has great neighbors. I have really good neighbors in Cobble and Gebhardt. It's the nuts behind me. All right, that's my comment.
Thank you, Nancy. Well, I'm sure that's true that you would have said more. Anybody else in the audience?
Hi, I'm Susan D'Angelo. I live at 55 Cobbles, and I'm Sandy's neighbor to the west. There's about 13 feet from my property line to her chicken coop, and the reason the other neighbor on the east can't see them is because there's a huge addition on the back of her house.
Can't hear.
Sorry, I'm not sure about the ramifications of the chickens because it's not my passion. I had the same questions as Mrs. Mulcahy, so I don't have answers for any of that, but I do know that I'm a registered nurse. I work with people every day with special needs that have, you know, life-sustaining conditions, and it would seem that you would have checked into that before you would make a huge leap like that. I have a daughter that's a special ed student, and she's right. We try to cater to her needs, but at the same time, the government, you know, is for all the people. I have concerns that when Sandy wrote her letter to all the neighbors, she excluded me, used our neighborhood directory, and excluded me from the email. And when I responded to the email from a kind neighbor that forwarded it to me, she put a separate letter in my box alone to not let the community know what the issues were. So I think there's a little bit more going on here. It was a very empathetic presentation, but I think from nuts and bolts and facts, there's other things going on here. I really don't have the answers to whether there'll be a nuisance. I think I heard through the grapevine that one of the hawks got one of her chickens. That could be, you know, hearsay because Sandy never directly ever talked to me about these chickens. So those are my concerns. I think the board has my response to the email. I'd like to point out that most of the people that have addressed, like Nancy, she has 3 acres and her variance was turned down. So it's not even close to the same thing. Sandy has 1/3 of an acre. So there's differences here, big differences. As much as I empathize with food allergies, I know there's a gentleman out on Salt Road that sells soy-free eggs. So there are options for Sandy, as unfortunate as her health problems are. I don't mean to be unsympathetic because I work with this every day. I think that's all I have to say.
Well, can I ask you why you oppose the idea of the chickens in the yard?
Well, for all the reasons that Mrs. Mulcahy brought up, you know, will they be odor? Will it change the face of the property? It will decrease my property value? I don't know those answers because I don't have a passion for chickens, but I lived there for, 15 years and, all of a sudden, this is happening. So I think that a little more research, it's not like she wants a variance for 3 acres like Nancy. She wants a variance for 1/3 of an acre, which is a lot of decrease. And it doesn't sound like there's a lot of compromise to me. It sounds like I want it, I have health issues, and if I can present it sympathetic enough, I'll get this variance.
Okay. I would say, hold on just one second, Mike. A lot of the things that you're talking about seem to me, anyway, to be factors that, and many of the things that people have said today would seem to be factors that the board that makes the law would use in deciding whether or not this law at the present time should be changed because the community's attitudes and thoughts are changing. Go ahead, Mike.
I just wanted to make a point that she happened to, I don't know why, it just sort of came to me while you were talking, and that's, we're compelled to deal with the fact that the variance is not personal to the owner of the property. It runs with the land and stays with that property. So if this property gets sold in 3, 4, 6 years, the person that takes over that property, that buys that property, would have the same rights if this was granted to do what Sandy would have the right to do if we grant it. So I think, I'm not saying that that in and of itself should determine anything, but it's just, it may be right for her, it may be wrong for the property.
Yep, and that
Excuse
certainly
me,
is.
before you leave, do you spend much time out in your yard?
Yes, I mean, this has been a long winter, and that's another point I wanted to make. I think Sandy closed her house in Brighton toward the fall, and that's when the chickens appeared. So it's been a very cool season, so I really don't know how much noise, how much wildlife, how much angst it will cause me. We live in our backyard, we have a pool, and every free moment we have from work, we live out there. So, could it be wonderful? It could be, I guess. I mean, from what some people say. It could also be terrible, and given the configuration of the property, I mean, the shed is, anchored where there is really no place to move, given the chain link fence that she put around it, and given where her sunroom is. So even though the folks on the other side of the property probably have no problem with it, I don't even see how, of course they couldn't see the chicken coop because there's an addition separating them. So say there was issues, where would you move the shed? There's nowhere to go. I mean, the big gully down there, we live in a day where health issues abound, and, even some of the folks that Sandy was neighbors to before had chickens, I'm sure that, they must have organic feed or whatever, and I apologize because I, don't do organic, so I don't know a lot about it. But I do know there is a gentleman on Salt Road that sells soy-free eggs. And again, I don't know, but that would intrigue some people.
Okay, thanks. Anyone else? Sir?
Oh, boy.
Good evening, I'm Lou Eggleston. I live directly across the street at 48 Cobbles Drive, and I was not aware that Sandy had chickens until her letter came around. I grew up on a leased, let me get this straight. We owned the house, it was like a few hundred yards from a farm that we leased. We didn't raise chickens on the farm, it was strictly a truck farm. We did have some hogs on the back, but that's a totally different environment, totally different story. We had chickens in the backyard. As far as odor is concerned, I don't think I've ever noticed it. And we raised probably a half a dozen, or not a half a dozen, but a couple of dozen chickens. Sandy, I think the gentleman spoke from Greece, covered the points most accurately. That number one, where she's asking for a variance. Her situation is unique. The allergies, food allergies, are extremely difficult. Sandy seems to be even more problems than I have. I'm allergic to gluten, to any of the artificial sugars that are alcohol-based, which is most of them, and also to dairy products. So it really gets expensive at the supermarket for me. It's a royal cramp in the backside. There isn't anything that you can pick up that doesn't have wheat in it. A bottle of ketchup is thickened with wheat. If you go look at a frozen food, a TV dinner, forget it. You can't find anything that doesn't have either wheat or soy or dairy. You've got a real pain. But I think what really is paramount is Sandy's health. This is really something that makes it very difficult for her. Two, the conditions the gentleman went through, all of those seem to be applicable to Sandy. She's not asking you to change the law. Her circumstances are unique. I live directly across the street. I see no problem from my side of the fence. As far as the aesthetics of the neighborhood, I didn't know the chickens were there. Well, the last 6 months, nobody spent a lot of time outside. So I really can't attest to, anything beyond that. As far as the value of the properties, frankly, I think this is inconsequential. What I think is consequential is a board that can respond to a special situation and meet those 4 conditions that say that you can recommend or allow the variance on this particular piece of property, and for a rather unique set of circumstances. And I think that doesn't open the gate for a herd of wildlife or a herd of animals, stockyard animals, into Penfield. And I thank you very much for your time, and thank you, folks, and have a good evening.
See, Nancy, some municipalities outlaw big gulps like the one you're drinking.
It was New York City where the apartment.
Steve Perry, 31 Cobbles Drive. My wife spoke a little earlier. I talked to my neighbor about the situation, and we came up with, and I think his point is good. You have responsible pet owners and irresponsible pet owners. And if someone's going to be responsible pet owners, and I lived there since 1972, and I haven't heard a chicken, and I haven't smelled a chicken, and I see no problem with it if she's responsible. And the other thing, I think she asked for a 6 months probationary period. Didn't you? Yep. Yeah, she asked for a 6 month probation period. Now, assuming you pass this, and you start getting neighbors complaining, what's the next recourse?
If we grant her a variance and neighbors...
I'm saying if.
I want to make sure I understand your question. If we grant her a variance...
Yes.
And then neighbors complain...
Well, in the future, they come back and say she's irresponsible.
He said a 6-month variance there.
Oh, okay. If we grant the 6-month variance and there's been no issues...
Or people complain, I think is what he said.
Yeah, or if people complain.
If there are
I
issues.
suppose it depends on what the complaints are, but let's just say, for
They
example,
need-
the
they need
odor...
addressed.
Yeah, the odor or whatever the issues that we've talked about here, then yeah, the point you're making is it would end, and because it didn't work out, it didn't work out.
Thank you.
Right. Sure.
My name is Holly Nielsen, and I live in Brighton on 177 Wilshire Road. I just want to let you know that I don't have chickens, and I don't desire to have chickens, and I just want you to think about the fact that that's my choice. But when you do have a need and you want to have them self-contained, it's important to think about the acreage. You really don't need that much space. It's very small, self-contained, and it's safer for the pets to stay there. The chickens to stay there so that you can utilize them for your health. So I just wanted to point that out, that when you keep on bringing up large acreage, because of the laws that's written out, I don't think it's really relevant to the space that you need for the chickens. So just a comment.
Anybody else? Sandy, I just have one other question, and hopefully it'll just be one. A lot of what we've heard about today has to do with your dietary needs. And I don't mean to pry, but I'm reading your list again, and your list is, the language you use is Sandy's food intolerances.
That's what they're called.
Okay, but it seems to me that there are a lot of things that you can eat, right? So what do you eat besides the chicken's eggs?
Well, I can, yes, there are some things I can eat, but on a regular basis, I really appreciate being able to have eggs every day. I can't have any cereals. I can't have any, I make breads out of nut grains, but at some point I need protein. And I don't want to be eating chicken or pork chops well, I can't even have pork, but
Right.
I can have chicken and turkey, but, for breakfast, and a lot of times even, I can't have a lot. Your list is there. It's difficult to have all this on. If this wasn't televised, I'd be a little more forthcoming with you, but
And again, I'm not
I have
meaning
to
to
get
pry.
protein in my diet, and
Yeah.
and I rely on having eggs. I make a lot of omelets, and then I make bread out of almond flour, and I can steam vegetables. I can't have egg salad because it's cold. As you can see on my thing, I'm not allowed to have cold food at this point. It's just limiting. I can broil some fish. But eggs is a wonderful resource for me. And to be honest with you, sometimes it's just nice to have something that I can eat without spending a lot. If I have very few places I can eat out, and that's only because a restaurant has a chef on staff who knows me, and I've emailed them my list, and then they will broil me a piece of fish and steam me some vegetables. I'm very limited I eat at home. I was invited to a dinner party last Saturday night, and I brought my own food. I did not want to impose on the hostess she's a gourmet cook. Everybody's thrilled to get an invitation. It's very isolating for me when people kind of think, oh, I don't know what to feed her. So I do bring my own food, and I heated it up and ate along with everybody, and just was thrilled to be in everyone's company, and we all went out together afterwards. But there wasn't anything she served I could have eaten.
You know about this place on Salt Road that a couple people have mentioned?
One person has mentioned it, and I do not know about it.
And
It might be something to check.
that's how it's advertised. We don't.
I don't know. I've been down to Public Market. I've been to the Brighton Market. I've been to the East Side Public Market, and I have not chased down every farmer in Monroe County. No, I didn't know about that one.
Okay. And to ask you, if this variance is denied and you wanted to continue to eat eggs from chickens that people had in Brighton or other towns?
I don't know. No one in Brighton. I don't sell my eggs. I don't.
No,
know
I'm not
anyone in
talking
Brighton.
about selling them. I'm talking about, have you tried to make arrangements to get eggs from other sources that would be similar to your chickens?
I did before, and that's why I got my own chickens. And I've gotten times people have given me, eggs and said, oh, these are good eggs, you can have these. And then I ended up with severe digestive problems. And I finally thought I need to see what my chickens are eating.
Okay.
I miss work. I've missed a lot of work in the last year. It's been very difficult. And at some point you get tired of it. I'm exhausted from this. It's depressing. And at some point you just want to eat something safe so you don't have to worry about being in the bathroom in 2 hours. I would love my life back, and I can't.
Okay. All right, thanks. Anyone else?
She's got control over the feed. I know you mentioned the place that they say soy-free. You can't prove it all the time. So she's got control. Secondly, my backyard has coyote, fox, oh God, deer, you name it, we've got it back there. But I watch my pets, and I got 2 small dogs. I don't let them run free. And he is the biologist, and it doesn't change anything. 9 months you're living there?
Well, the chickens will do in September.
All right, so whatever. Nothing smells? Okay, so the minute people start complaining that there's smell and there's crap all over the place, that's when you take action. And you were talking about denying other people. I don't know what their reason why you denied theirs. It could be because they just wanted them for pets. any living creature I would have in my home or by my home would be my pet. My husband's my pet. So I'm just saying that, give it to her.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, folks, thank you all very much. Obviously, not an easy issue, but we do certainly appreciate, and I'm sure that Sandy, if I may call you Sandy, appreciates everyone being here as well.
Okay, we take about a 3-minute.
Yeah, we're going to take about a 3-minute break.
Thank you.
It's gonna get a long one. Good thing we're there. Be here till tomorrow.
Yeah, well, thank you for saying main board and real board. It makes us feel like shit. We know what you were saying. Okay, folks, thank you very much. Harold, may we have the next application, please?
Application number 2, Michael and Polly Conn, 610 Webster Road, Webster, New York, 14580. Request an area variance from Article 3-3-37 Code to allow the construction of a garage addition at 1777 Salt Road. The property is owned by Michael and Polly Conn. It is zoned RA-2. This is PL number 125.02-1-6. This is application number 13Z-0005.
Hello,
Hi.
I'm Michael Conn, it's my wife Polly. We have that property at 1777 Salt Road. You've all seen this picture. Okay, this is what the house looked like when we bought it last June. It was, I don't know if you know the history of this house. It's built 150 years ago or so as a one-room schoolhouse in the 40s. A man bought it and converted it to a single-family residence. He raised his family. There wasn't much work done or upkeep on the property since the 40s. It was very distressed. They've probably been for sale for quite a while. You know, we picked it up for you know, a lot less than he was asking, but we still paid a lot of money for it. You know, I try to bring these properties up to the value of the surrounding properties. This one here needed a lot. It needed everything. It was a Cape Cod style, low ceilings, floors off level, and naturally, you know, everybody's got a two-car garage. In June, I got a building permit, which shows the two-car garage on it, along with the other renovations. And then in November, they told me I needed a variance. I think it's supposed to be the other way around, variance before the building permit. Well, anyways, the house is like 80% done. We've put a lot of money into the property. We've you know, got a custom kitchen in it, you know, oak flooring, you know, and 2 full baths, tile, a deck, you know, drainage for the gutters, and you know, it's got windows, siding, furnace, everything's new. It's a total gut. So it's a 2-car garage. It's just natural. It had a 1-car garage. When we put the footers in for the 2-car garage, there was already footers there. So at one time, the property did have 2-car. You probably have a tough time finding a house within a mile of me that doesn't have a two-car garage. Terry, my neighbor, the guy that owns a big farm to the south of me, he's such a nice guy, and a lot of neighbors have been showing up all throughout the winter, not just since the variance time. But Terry took a Thursday night, and along with some of the other people that I've met in the neighborhood, they signed a petition. Isn't that something, these guys? Anyways, there's about 20 plus signatures on it, and you know, if it's not bothering them, I don't see how it could bother anybody. We've made application, and we've got a house number for Sweets Corners to take the front of the house, which is not the front. The front has always been facing Sweets Corners, but for some reason the address is Salt Road. I don't know if that makes a difference. But, you know, the neighbors are great. I got a lot of support from them. I don't know anybody that would not like this idea. I don't think it's a lot to ask for, but, you know, here I am, and this is what we're asking for.
Okay. Roseanne?
Are you going to live at this property, or are you just
No, ma'am.
having it to sell it?
We've probably done, I don't know, a dozen of them sold like this. 4 of them in Penfield. We live on 250 in Webster. We've been there about 30 years. So in some cases I put them up for sale, but a lot of them we still own, and we rent them out. You know, we screen our tenants well. You know, we found out that if you give them a nice piece of property and screen them, that you can usually get some nice people. And, you know, I can't say that I wouldn't sell it. Everything's for sale, you know. But by the time you buy a piece of property like this and pour a bunch of cash into it a bunch of times, it's usually worth a lot less than you got into it, you know.
Do you have any drawings of what the proposed garage would look like?
Yeah, they're in the building plans. I got a copy here I can dig up for you. Now, it's going to take me a minute.
Here, I've got them.
You got them, Harold? Just, you know, this is the house. You can see that it used to be a Cape Cod with no windows on the second floor in the front. What we did is we cut it off here at the second floor and added a full 2-story. And this was always here, this kitchen, and there was a 1-car garage. So all we're really doing is adding 10 feet to the garage, or 11 feet.
And changing the roof line?
Yes,
Changing it so it pitches the other way,
right,
right?
right, just for looks.
And the whole variance that you're asking for, it's just the 19-foot setback, right? That's
Yeah, I think
out of the variance.
it's too close to Salt Road or something, which is the front or it's the side, whatever address you use.
Size of the parcel of land?
It's a half acre.
Are you adding any outdoor lighting there that isn't currently on the outside of the garage?
Code is wherever there's a door, there's an outside light. Now, we had some problems over there. Some people stole some materials from me. So since then, I've had outside lighting on the property.
It doesn't affect any of the neighbors or anything? Are you,
I have one immediate neighbor to the rear or to the south. And then the other neighbor I got is 100 yards away. And then there's nobody else around me for quite a while.
put a new driveway leading up to that as well?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
You said the footers are already in the ground for this?
Yeah, well, when they told me I needed a variance was the day they inspected for the footers.
And then you stopped the construction,
Well, I stopped the garage, but I kept working on the house.
that was approved. This is just for the
Yes,
garage, right?
well, yeah, it was approved.
The house was
These
approved.
plans were approved with this garage.
Okay. But the construction stopped until
Yeah,
you
it
came
stopped
to the,
when
okay.
Tom
all
told
right.
me I needed a variance. I said, what, are you kidding? So he said, here I am.
All right, and then the garage, the siding and everything will match what you're
Oh,
doing
yeah.
to the home?
All tied together.
So it'll be all consistent?
There'll be windows on this side of the garage. It'll match the house. It'll look nice. It's got a 30-year roof on it, and you know, all vinyl siding. It'll look like my neighbors, you know.
I don't have any other questions, Dan.
How far are you now from Salt Road?
I think it's 49 feet.
It says on the
31.8.
31.
No, wait a minute.
No.
20, 24. Well, the lot line, I don't know. I would say if you walk from the garage to the house is probably 50 feet.
You know, and the reason I'm asking is I'm wondering what is the, what's difference it would make, if any? I mean, that's, do you know that currently or before anything was done, it was 50 feet away?
No, it wasn't.
So it was a pre-existing?
It was less than 50 feet away from Salt Road.
So the way it existed, the point I'm trying to make is when you bought it, it probably was in violation of the code as it existed, and...
Sure.
Okay.
Well, the house is like 1880s or something.
Right,
Okay.
right.
So it's probably got more issues too.
Well, I'm sure you're addressing them.
You know what I mean? Well, that's why it sat there for years and nobody touched it.
Yeah.
You know, when he tried to sell it, he really had to discount it.
And have you planned the addition so that it is large enough to accommodate your need, but small enough to minimize the variance that you're requesting?
Just a basic two-car garage.
Okay.
With a 16-foot overhead door.
No excessive space after the
No.
cars get in there. Okay, any other questions from the board? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Application number 4, Alan Hanford-Penfield Racquet Club, 667 Panorama Trail West, Rochester, New York, 14625. Requests a special permit for signage under Article VII-7-3 from Article VII-7-12-B, Article VII-7-12-D, Article VII-7-13-C of the code to allow a larger freestanding sign with less setback than permitted and 2 building-mounted signs at 667 Panorama Trail West. The property is owned by Penfield Racquet Club Incorporated and is zoned BNR. This is SBL number 123.20-2-39.11. This is application number 13Z-0006.
Magnets that can hold that back? No? Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
Good evening, I'm Alan Hanford.
Alan, let me interrupt you before you begin your presentation. Just so you know, we're probably gonna, one aspect of this is probably gonna be tabled, so
Right.
that...
Harold mentioned that.
Okay, so what I was gonna suggest is that we leave the public hearing open and allow you to meet with the town engineer, and so you're able to learn of any concerns he may have, and he may not have any. But my guess is he's probably going to have some, and then be able to address those when you come in and give the presentation. And that's, of course, on the freestanding sign issue. So if you want, I mean, you can go through it, but you may end up going through it twice, and
I'm here.
It's up to you. Okay. Well, you're certainly going to have to talk about the building-mounted ones anyway.
Right. Well, what we're looking at is we're doing a rebranding of the club. We're changing the name. For years, we've had a sign located at the intersection of Panorama Trail West and Panorama Trail, and it really only was visible from coming from the south. We've been in business for 35 years, and every other day somebody says, "Where are you?" It's like, come on, we've been here forever, and you still don't know. So we know we need more signage. There's a lot more competition out there than there ever was, and just looking around the rest of the neighborhood, there's a ton of variances. So I was always respectful of the fact that not trying to get a variance, but now it's just become an issue that I think we've got to probe. So there are 3 different signs on the property that we're looking at. The main one is the monument freestanding sign out here, And what we're proposing to do is put in a sign that can be seen from both directions. And the major concern that people have told us and exists on that street is that coming south on Panorama Trail, you're coming downhill, you're going around a slight bend, and you have a street that goes back at greater than 90 degrees. It's a tough street to maneuver through, and so giving people some notification that they're coming down a hill and they're looking for it, and there's no other indication. It's just trees, and then all of a sudden the street opens up. So what we wanted to do was locate, and we went through a lot of analysis to try to figure out how are we going to get visibility coming down the hill, and it really required, I mean, where the existing sign was, it's just no way you were going to see that. So, and that was set up to meet all the setback requirements and everything else. So what we're proposing is to put a sign out pretty much at the lot line, and we think we'll get visibility on both sides. Now, I know Jeff is concerned, rightly so, with line of sight coming out of the street, looking back up at traffic that comes in. Traffic's coming down here. You've obviously got traffic out here turning in both directions. There's got to be visibility here. We're fully aware of that. We think that and we have played around with it. I just didn't, I mean, I know he wants me to put a representative sign or barrier up there and see, hey, what happens and where can we put it. I know we can get it somewhere, and it's a matter of taking it from this point up here, somewhere in there you're going to get, because the cars come out and the lines that people come to are right in line with the existing sidewalk. So you come out to that, you look for the visibility. Obviously, we don't want to create a hazard, and so we were always planning on playing around with that. But I know we went back up into here, and you know it's a little restrictive in that you won't know that coming in from that side if you go too far. But we know that, and you can just see the line of sight from here to here, and something in 15, 20, 30 feet back from the intersection of the lot lines will give us that line of sight. So that's a consideration. We were also asking for a size variance. It's going to be a two-sided sign. It's going to be backlit, and that's what we're proposing. And I put some photographs together with some kind of photoshopping of what the size would look like. They were in a packet that went out to you. Just to give you an idea, we're asking for a 48 square foot. We know the existing regulation is 20 square feet per side. So, but you look at it and you say, hey, is that thing really out of character or anything like that? It's really, there is quite an elevation change here, so it really doesn't stick up and jump out at all. I tried to follow a visibility chart that was given to me by the sign company people, and they're saying, I mean, there's obviously interpretations of all this, but I looked at a 200-300 foot sight distance, and you're looking at letters much bigger than what we're coming up with. So, if we have to shrink it back even more, it won't be legible. I mean, obviously you'll be aware of a sign there, but we wanted to make it legible because we think it's an important part of creating the awareness. So that's that sign, and I think that's the issue that Jeff's going to have. Obviously, it's a traffic safety issue, and he's got to be satisfied with that. We'll work on that. The other two signs, existing, we have a large linear sign above some windows here, and we're going to take that down and put a sign right on this wall right here. There's some existing vegetation that we'll have to remove, but you know, it's the only way we can get any visibility here. And we had a logo designed that will, just the separate lettering, and there's a P that is a little distinctive. Again, it's on all your
Now,
documents.
excuse me, why are you moving the location?
The new logo is much squarer. We just had the linear Penfield Fitness and Racquet Club. Now it's Penfield Sport and Fitness. Spent a lot of money on getting the logo squared away, but it's still just a squarer look. And these windows up here just didn't allow that. Plus, just sighting in here, this thing sights up because of elevations and everything else. You're looking over the tops of cars. When you turn or any visibility from the street, that's what you want in a building sign. And we just felt it was a better place to get that. You know, the old sign was here, and we've, you know, as you know, we've made a lot of changes to it, and this is really the wall that it'll look best at now. That sign, there's no variance on that. You know, got 270 lineal feet of frontage. Sign could be twice the size as what it is right now, but I can't remember exact numbers, but it's again 240 square feet. So, you know, we could have 540 square feet. So that's. Now the other thing that we've been trying to get organized on for a while is out at Penfield Road. There's a very clear line of sight, and we've got a couple of trees in here, but there's a very clear line of sight. We've taken photos and everything else, walked up and down, and people have said for years, why don't you put a sign up there so I know where it is, and get the extra exposure. You know, this thing is set so far back that we really don't get much curb awareness of it. And so what we're asking for is a sign on this wall, high on that wall, and it's again the same looking logo as over here, or lettering, and that will allow it to be seen from over here. That sign is also, you know, the length of the building allows you to have, and we could have a larger sign over there than what we're asking for. But I understand that, you know, it's one sign to a building, but of course, there seems to be a lot of buildings that have two signs, so it's really up to you as to whether you allow that. But, you know, we are seeing, as I said, a ton of competition, and we've got to be better marketers than we ever were. And, you know, we've seen it in the last couple of years. We've had a hard time replacing membership, so I'm just looking for some consideration. You know, we're spending a lot of money with this reorganization, or the rebranding, and changing the whole interior decor and things like that.
So the color of the signs are pretty much going to be as you indicated here?
Yeah,
Dark background?
the logo is a red, black, and silver. That's the three colors.
Okay. So the sport and fitness would be silver?
Well, which sign are we looking at?
I don't know, are they different? That's another question I had.
Good question. Let me just get the, yeah, those are the building ones.
It looks like from your letter, the building one on the front would be 241, and the one on the side is 168 square feet.
Right.
So that's a total.
That's how it breaks apart.
It's 409, and I think you're allowed 550 for one.
Yeah, if you're using
for
the
one
front
sign.
as the, yeah, I didn't even consider it that way, but because I always figured it was the face of the wall you were working with that would be, but, you know, it works either way. And
And then the lettering, the actual Penfield portion is gonna be white, red during the day, or white during the day and red at night? Sort of what it says.
Yeah, that's on the monument or the freestanding sign.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not
yeah.
on the other one is just gonna be backlit?
Yeah. Hey, I got another meeting. I'll give you the exact colors, you know. But I mean, it's gonna be.
Yeah, but you're here now. Right. I know what you said.
You're gonna see me again.
Touche, yeah.
It's gonna be painful, I know. You know, I mean, I can say it should be black, it should be, but, you know, it's you know, the other lettering is so small, it's gonna be hardly legible. I mean, it will be very tastefully done. I mean, those are the colors we got. It's gonna be white or red.
Okay.
And during the day, it's gonna be as shown. That's majority of what you're gonna see. I mean, you're only gonna see the Penfield at night.
Okay. And that's
The
only,
others are
it
4
sounds like
inches
it's only
tall,
on the
6
monument
inches
sign?
tall. What's that?
The color change is only on the monument sign?
I think so.
Yeah, okay.
I'll confirm it, Michael.
Have you considered putting, obviously you must have, so, but I'm gonna ask you what the difference is, putting it across, was it Panorama West? Putting it on the south side of
Over
the,
here?
yeah,
If you can talk Simonetti into doing that, it'd be wonderful. Yeah.
on his property?
Yeah, he doesn't own that
Yeah.
parcel.
Well, you know, if things really worked out great, you know, the whole thing was buy his property and then have a real nice roadway in there that would work. But, you know, there's,
And originally that was angled in for what reason? It's kinda the elevation or?
talk to Emil Mueller. Oh, you can't.
Oh.
Oh, ouch.
You know?
Actually, somebody, the state or the town, did reconfigure that corner a little bit. Boy, it was, wow, that's a great relief. And then, you know, like 2 weeks later, you go, hey, it's still kind of a bad turn.
Yeah, cause it seemed to me if you took off a little bit of that corner and had you know, you could cut the radius a little bit and.
It's
do
already
away
been
with-
done once,
Yeah.
probably, you know, 4 or 5 years ago, maybe longer ago than that.
So if you took your original sign, size-wise,
This one,
yeah,
right?
and moved it, wouldn't that really accomplish what you want to accomplish without expanding it to, was it,
Yeah, I mean, the original sign is somewhere around the 10 by 2.
10
And,
by 20, I think, is it? 10 by 20?
no, 10, it's 20 square feet, but it was 10, approximately 10 wide and 2 high. Yeah, I mean, we did go through this whole thing with creating a more of a vertical look to and so you get to that, and, you know, we just tried to create some visibility, especially coming down the hill, and, you know, depending on how you interpret the readability and whether you want to say, is it 300 feet or 200 feet, is the sight distance that you're going to be able to read it. You're talking about much bigger letters. I mean, you're talking about 30-inch letters. These are, the Penfield is 14-inch letters. So, you know, I mean, I don't think there's an exact science to it.
Right, but I think it's going to be a question of relationship between size and location. In other words, you may be able to get a closer location with a smaller sign as opposed to a larger sign and pushed
Well, I
further
think
back.
I think the whole thing, Mike, is that whether we took this thing back 20 feet or, I mean, if we get it out to the lot line, which will give it the visibility from this side, if we're sitting and riding this lot line, it really doesn't matter whether the thing is 8 feet wide or 10 feet wide or 4 feet wide. It's going to be that point where you're going to have the problem.
Yeah, except you may be able to see over it. I think that's,
No, the configuration is bad. Take a look out there.
Well,
If I had something 5 feet high, I can't see it from this side. You know, you're quite a bit lower here than you are the lay of the land up in
It's definitely downhill, that's for
Right,
sure.
definitely.
Yeah, so, I mean, you need 3 or 4 feet just to get there, just so you can have some visibility and you know,
Well,
got the
obviously, and I-
dimensions in here, but that was really, if you,
And
I think
obviously,
I
you're
gave you
trying
a
to
shot
accomplish
of
that
it.
with the base.
What's that?
You're trying to accomplish that to some extent with the base.
Right,
The
right,
base of the sign, and then you got a sign sitting on it.
right.
All I'm saying is, when you cite that, or when our engineer looks at it, I mean, it's gonna make a difference how big it is and where it's put. So there's a relationship there.
Right.
So I think we have to consider
Well,
that
I mean, if
together.
we can't accomplish it and can't accommodate them, and it's a reasonable request, then we gotta get more creative. You know, if we gotta put some up in the air and have, I mean, I took just a quick walk over to the mountain Lane sign here and the Lost Mountain sign here, and, you know, they're closer to the road than I am. They just happen to be lucky in that they're in the convex side of the road rather than the concave side of the road, but they still have, but, you know, Lost Mountain Manor, if he's got it up, you know, and I got a picture of it, you look underneath it, you know, and hey, if I've got to be creative like that, I guess we, you know, open it up and set it
On a
up
pole?
on an
Yeah,
open,
you could put it. could
yeah,
put
put it up
pole.
on two silver poles,
So you can see
something like that.
underneath it.
And,
At least
but,
then you can
you know,
see
I think
through.
we'll be able to take care of it. I mean, it's gonna be
Okay.
a little juggling and things like that, but,
No, I
you
understand.
know.
Okay, I don't have any other questions this time.
Anybody else? Alan, can you just, I know in that area, we have granted variances for 2 building-mounted signs, and and anyone else on the board actually kind of help out here, and let's recite some of those. I think, does Burger King have 2?
Yeah, that's way, way back.
Yeah, and Panera?
Walgreens, of course.
But they don't
You know,
have, but they usually don't have
Gray's,
freestanding too.
Right, no, I know, but I'm talking about the,
Roadhouse,
yeah. Yeah, Roadhouse, that's true.
Lisa's
Bill Gree-
Liquor
Bill
Buying.
Gray's.
The dollar store.
Lisa's is the one we did fairly recently.
Okay.
So there is precedent for that.
Yep. Okay, any other questions from the board? Anyone in the audience? Really? I thought you were here for the first one. Now, come on up.
You know the procedure.
That's,
He's the biologist.
yeah, go ahead.
We're not gonna be.
Not by you, I'm not messing with you.
I'm tougher than him. That's why you hurt my mouth. Okay. I'm Dennis Gorlick, 54 South Village Trail in Fairport. The reason I just got up is because every morning I drive down the hill to go to work, and every evening I go up the hill to go up to work. So I think that the point has already been raised, but I just wanted to mention it. And I think that Mr. Hanford and the board as well discussed options for thinking of a way to have a sign there that gives visibility to your establishment, but doesn't interfere with the line of sight for traffic. Just because that is you've already mentioned, it's a tricky corner, but like I said, I experience it every day, and it's something that really needs to be kept in mind as you look at the variance or alternative ways to accomplish the same thing without adding to the danger of that intersection, especially coming down the hill, when it's hard for people going out to see you coming down and vice versa.
Sure.
Yeah, I think you brought it up. I just wanted to bring it up from the point of view of a person who drives that twice a day. Thank you.
Someone's gonna get the last word here. Oh,
Always, always. He does speak much more eloquently than I do. I'm all for you doing the big sign on top of the building. And I think you'd see the visibility from coming and going and all that. I don't work like he does. I have fun. But many times I go down and up the road. I have seen the sign, maybe because I look for things, and I've been trained to look for surroundings after learning how to ride a motorcycle. You do see more around you. Many times coming down, I've had to stop. So I'm a little bit leery when I come down, only because somebody has shot out. Now, either they're not looking or they don't see me coming. And the idea of having a big sign might be more obstructive for people's viewing, whatever. So that's just my thing. I told you he speaks better than I do.
Anybody else in the audience? Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Sure we'll see you next month.
I'm on the mailing list. We meant him.
Yeah, we're talking about the,
But you're welcome back next month also.
we're not sure we'll see you next month.
Application number 5, Shelley Baton, 57 Oak Hill Terrace, Penfield, New York, 14526. Requests a conditional use permit from Article 10-10-4 and Article 3-3-77-A of the Code to allow an ice cream store at 1601 Penfield Road. The property is owned by DDR Panorama Plaza LLC in the Zone GB. This is SBL number 138.08-1-2./PLZA. This is application number 13Z-008.
You know, it always is that after a fairly long night, the last application is always about food.
Yes.
Always.
Just to make us hungry.
Yeah, so go ahead.
Ice cream.
I was actually just saying to my wife, I wish we had one ice cream.
So do we.
Yeah, so do we.
Actually, probably more like 10.
Yeah, I apologize for that, but,
My name is Shelley Baton, and this is my husband, Matthew. We live at 57 Oak Hill Terrace in Penfield, but the ice cream shop that we purchased is at 1601 Penfield Road. It is a leased building, so we've purchased the actual business and not the building. It's been an ice cream shop since around the 1960s, and we don't intend on making any changes to the business whatsoever. It is doing well in itself as we've purchased it, so we intend on, going down there, ordering the same kinds of ice cream, having exactly the same sorts of ideas that the past owners had had. We don't plan on changing parking, signage, pretty much absolutely nothing that I can think of.
Business name and everything is going to remain the same.
Correct,
Right,
yes.
so you don't have to change any signage or?
Nope, we've purchased all the rights to all of that.
What are your proposed hours of operation?
Sure. They will be generally from noon until 10 p.m. They're going to be a little bit shortened at the start of the season, at the end of the season.
Your opening day be, and then what would the close of the season be?
Sure.
Maybe
We're
that's very
looking at opening possibly April 5th, which would be in a couple of weeks here. And closing would be sometime mid-October, a little bit weather dependent, probably around October 15th or so.
And then will you have outdoor seating?
Yes, there is benches, a few picnic tables, and exactly the same seating that had been there previously.
They all
with the-
exist though, right?
Yep, they do.
And there's plenty of parking, like we said, that's been a prior business. Are you going to have any music outside?
We would like to do some live music approximately 3 times. And by live music, we're talking like 1, 2 man, little, small kinds of music, not anything that consists of a large band of any sorts. We have a canopy, but I don't know what it's called. Yeah, it's just small, like there's bench seating underneath it, but we would pull that out and put them underneath there, which if you're looking at the building would be it's directly to the right of the building. So it's between the building and the tree line and that bridge.
What hours would you like to have music?
Music, we would look at having around probably 7 p.m., so 7 maybe till 9 at the latest.
Excuse me, I have a question. Could that be done by permit for
That's
temporary if it's only 3
That's generally the
times
way
a-
we have done it. We have the option of being able to do that 3 times during the course of the calendar year, so, and I think that's what
I know
she was
the past
indicating.
owners had done it a few times as well.
I think, Roseanne, your question was more to just general music that you would have.
Oh,
say, like,
okay.
a speaker that would-
I apologize.
No, that's fine.
Yes,
But it's
we do
good-
have.
it's good to know.
Yeah, we do have music that is played inside of the shop where the workers are, and then as well as outside. But none of that is changing. It's been the same as it has been. I think there are 2 small speakers on the building. Nothing more than that.
and no noise will be audible past the property line as per.
Right.
Harold, I just want to make sure that before we part company tonight, they're aware of what they need to do on those occasions when they're going to have the musicians, actual person. So you might just want to touch base quickly before you leave.
Thank you.
I don't have any other questions.
I just have one. The previous owners opened up at 11 in the morning, and I'm just wondering if you would like to also say 11. It would give you an extra hour in case you wanted it. If you say 12, then you can't open till 12. But if you ask us for 11, then you're covered.
Okay, yeah, let's do 11, please.
Some people on the board like ice cream for breakfast.
Someone's really hungry.
Bring that up.
Anyone in the audience on this application?
I'll go for it, I like that.
Okay. All right, very good, thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Can I just say two things on
Sure.
the overboard? Or first off, for the chicken coop, as some of you may know, I also work for the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. I should actually be there right now. As far as code enforcement and town enforcement, as general, the Monroe County Sheriff's Office does not normally do a lot of that stuff. Both my wife and I are transplants to this area. We've called Penfield home. I'm also a part of the Penfield Fire Company as a line officer. We love this town. This is a great town. My wife also has some stomach issues that we have to deal with and food issues. We grew up out in Wyoming County in a little town of Warsaw where there's a 3-to-1 ratio of cows to people. If you were my neighbor, by all means, please do. Trust me, I in the last, I think, 4 or 5 years with the stomach issues that we've been dealing with my wife, it's definitely been an issue, and I can understand how hard it is to go out to eat. Is there a bathroom close by? Obviously, we're opening an ice cream store, and obviously ice cream. And ice cream can now be an issue. I wish you the best of luck. As far as the signage, I'm also one of the accident reconstructionists for the sheriff's office on midnights. I patrol Penfield 4 nights a week. If you were to call when you get home in an hour, I will be the one that responds. Penfield Road, I'm sorry, I make a correction. Panorama Trail and that section of road, as long as I've been a police officer, has not been an issue for car accidents. Obviously, the adjustments that were made at Atlantic and Jackson Road with adding the stoplight, an absolute huge improvement, not only for fire calls, but also for police calls. Again, I understand the concern of line of sight, and as an accident reconstructionist, that is always one of the first things that we think of is what they call point of possible perception. When could someone have perceived that someone was going to be pulling out? I don't think that that's an issue in that area. I drove that. I worked last night. I was up and down Panorama Trail approximately 10 times throughout the night, just with calls for service. Correct.
Yeah,
correct. And so is a deer running out in front of you that you can't control.
That's part of nature.
Correct. That is.
Yeah.
He's asking for.
I'm just saying that in general, that is not one of our problem locations. And also the coyote, Mr. DeLaus, I know approximately where you live. The last coyote that I saw was actually not in her neighborhood. It was actually in your neighborhood,
Oh, I know.
sir. So,
I see him frequently.
Up at Creek and Plank area.
Yeah.
I had one dart in front of me. Actually, I thought it was a German Shepherd, and I'm like, what is that doing? And then obviously I stopped. I put my spotlight on it, and I'm like, oh, that's not
no
it.
shepherd.
Yeah,
I know.
So hopefully everybody has their dogs in at 4 o'clock in the morning. So.
Great.
So I apologize. I just wanted to add.
No, that's okay. We appreciate that. All right. Anybody else? Pete, you want to get up and say anything? Or are you done for the night? Somebody had to do it. Okay.
He's
Well,
waiting all night to lay that one on the table.
The hearings will be adjourned. We'll take another brief recess and reconvene in the back. Thank you, everyone.